I'm Tony Bellew, and you're listening to the Toe to Toe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Ringside Toe to Toe, a boxing podcast exclusive to Sky Sports. I'm Andy Scott and I'm joined by former welterweight and super welterweight contender Gary Logan. Gary, great to have you back on, mate. We're officially allowed to hug today. Have you hugged any strangers, any trees, or is it just hugging the golf club still?
Hugging the golf clubs, they're my favourite friends. Trees I don't do, and strangers certainly not, mate.
I don't know. We've been locked up for a long time, mate. That's what I'm going to say. And if you were playing golf in this weather, then I think you're even more mental than I genuinely thought you were.
You know, it is my therapy, mate. You know, Ben will tell you what it's like working with fighters. You need some sort of alternative therapy sometimes. And
golf is my carp fishing, mate. I'm going to sit in the rain on Thursday, raining sideways, and that is it. Well, Gary, you've already given the game away. We're joined by a very special guest, a man who will be in the corner for the huge, undisputed super lightweight clash between Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. It's Ben Davison. Ben, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Just explain when and where you are at the moment, because you're in the middle of, I think, already like the press tour has started, hasn't it, for Fight Week?
Yeah, Josh is doing his little media round at the moment. So we're in the Top Rank offices at the moment, just getting that done. So yeah, in Las Vegas, Fight Week for Josh Taylor, undisputed world championship fight against Jose Ramirez.
What's the mood like, mate, already? Is it buzzing already, or are you just trying to keep a lid on it and trying to keep calm?
It's still slightly different. Obviously, there'll be a bit of a bubble. It's still slightly different to your usual Fight Week, but yeah, you know, obviously everybody's excited, but as well as excited, we know that the fight will come, patience, and just focused on the job at hand.
Is it just that little final thing now? Because obviously we've dealt with you in the bubbles in London, in the Hilton and things like that, and that final little hurdle, apart from fighters making weight, is just making sure everyone returns a negative COVID test. And I've seen all of your Instagram stuff. You guys are, look fit and well and healthy. Is it just that last little bit, get everyone tested and in the bubble, and then there's a degree that you can relax a little bit?
Yeah, we've just literally done a pre-bubble COVID test and everybody's passed, so that's all good. It's a little bit of stress off. So yeah, it's just the final stage of preparation, and preparation doesn't stop until the first bell. Yeah,
touch wood. We've all got our fingers crossed here. Look, we are super excited about this. I don't think anybody will really disagree. This is the fight of the year, and I know we're sort of going to come on to AJ Fury later in the podcast because we've had some good news about that. But I don't think anyone can deny that this, for boxing fans, and I'm talking on a podcast here as a boxing fan, we are so excited about this. Just how much confidence is running through the team at the moment?
Yeah, we're very confident, but yet realistic, and that's the key thing here. We know that if Josh goes about the fight in the wrong way, it becomes a tougher fight than it needs to be. Jose Ramirez is in an undisputed level title fight because he's earned his right to be in there. But I also, at the same time, believe that Josh goes about the fight the right way. It's a potential showcase performance.
Gary, just set this one up for us, mate. It's massive. It's Josh Taylor 17-0. It's Jose Ramirez 26-0. It's all the marbles. It's a super fight. I know that you are excited to watch it, and I know that we've been talking about it for a long time on this podcast. As I said earlier, fingers are crossed now for Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez, and I don't want to keep going on about it, but I'm just so excited about it.
Mate, rarely have we seen two guys going for an undisputed title at the top of their trade, at the absolute peak of their abilities. You know, I think Josh Taylor is now at his peak. He's shown that in the way that he won the WBSS. That fight with Progress is one of my favorite fights to watch. It's just a great trade fight, and this will be an equal great trade fight.
Amen.
Because there are little lapses that I'm sure Ben will say that Progress allowed Josh to take the initiative. Ari, when Progress would start the work, Josh would always finish it, and Progress wouldn't have a second answer to that, to Josh's prolonged work after Progress had finished his work. Whereas I think with Ramirez, he's a different cat. He's ultra aggressive with underestimated boxing ability as well. but his engine is the difference between him and Progress. I think that he's got a better engine than Progress, and that in itself will ask questions and will raise Josh Taylor's boxing ability, because I think primarily box fighting is going to be the winner of the day for Josh, in my eyes.
Ben, can you take us through the timeline of camp? So whenabouts did you make your way out to Vegas? And obviously we all know that you've been training in the top ranked gym there. When did you make your way out there?
We've been here for about four weeks now. So plenty of time ahead to acclimatise.
And people think training in Vegas, that you'll be on the strip and it'll be casino to casino. It's not the case in camp, is it? I know you got Chris Congo out there and you took your sparring partners out there, and whilst you've perhaps gone on and had your rest days there, it's not like life on the strip.
No, not the strip. People don't realise the size of the strip, and when you're on the strip, it's tiring walking up and down a hotel to hotel. It takes out you, and rest days are for exactly that, rest. So he's been recovering, made sure that he's back in the house by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on the weekends to rest and recover, but also a little something just to help refresh his mind and take his mind off of things and let the mind relax as well, so he's not cooped up in the house. So he's had a couple of activities on the weekends, but like I say, made sure that he's back by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock to get his rest in for the following week's training.
Does he play golf?
Does he play golf? Good question.
I think he did play golf, but
He's a Scotsman, man. He's got to play golf.
he's got the accident that happened from when he was little with the golf club.
Yeah, so Gary, so the scar, he said that to me. He said, of all the fights he's been in and all the accidents he's had, the scar he's got on his face is because I think he was standing behind his granddad or a family member who swung back with a golf club, and that was where the cut came from. Yeah. Of all the fights he's been in, I think Darren Barker was the same. Darren Barker never suffered a cut in his pro career, got up to go to the loo in the middle of the night and walked into the corner of a cabinet and had the worst cut that he's ever had. Fighters, you're funny beasts. Ben, you've been with Josh a year now, and you've had that one fight together, which was the one-round blowout of Consong. But can you take us back to when Josh decided to bring you on board? I think he had visited numerous gyms and he had trained with a couple of high-profile trainers, but sort of the shoe fitted with you. Was it a natural fit on both sides? I don't know how it works. Is it the first time you take a fighter on the pads? Is it more of a dialect? Is it a communication? Did you feel that you and him clicked straight away?
So I was in Dubai with Billy Joe Saunders and Josh come over. I'd already been contacted a little while before that Josh had wanted to come over and spend some time with myself. I prepared a small film study on Josh, actually, based on the fight against Jose Ramirez, funny enough. His strengths, his weaknesses, how I think he should go about the fight, my views, etc., etc. Josh's strengths and weaknesses, I mean. And when he come over the first day, he literally just focused on his feet and his lead hand. And I think the first day he was a bit like, was expecting some flashy pads and etc., etc. But gradually through the week, he saw each day what we was doing, building on the previous day, leading into the end of the week where everything started flowing. And then, like you say, he went and spent some time with some other coaches and that. And then he just sort of said, I'd like to come back and have another week. So he come back and had another week. And at the end of the week, he actually left his stuff in the gym. And I said, "Oh, your stuff's over there." He went, "I'm going to leave it here. Like, I've made my mind up that I want to work with you, if that's okay." So, yeah, that was how it went, really.
When someone walks through the door like that, that he's an elite fighter that has achieved a lot as an amateur, as a pro, Commonwealth gold medalist, unified world champion, is it a case of fine-tuning the skills? Or did he come to you and you mentioned the footwork there, but had you already said to yourself, there are A, B, and C that we can take to the next level?
Yeah, of course. And that's, like I say, that's what the little film study was about that I'd done for him. No matter what level any fighter is, there's areas that they can develop on. If they've got the mindset that they've got no more else to learn, then I'm the wrong person for them, because that's not the way I look at things. And, Josh was open to it. And, I suppose that's what made the shoe fit.
Yeah, and that's key, isn't it? Gary, the fighter has to be receptive to what the trainer's telling them. Otherwise, it's a waste of everyone's time. If
you don't evolve as a coach and you don't evolve as a fighter, you stagnate. Simple as. And evolving is us using our grey matter. Yeah. And some fighters' fighting acumen is a little bit of a higher level already, and some fighters have to be brought up. But even when they're at an elite level, depending on the style of a fighter, and Ben and I will both agree that, Jose Ramirez is Josh's most formidable opponent to this date, simply because he does so many things so well and he is so aggressive with it. And he is quite clever at setting traps also. But Ben has seen what Josh does well, and he knows what they can utilize for a fight. But Josh has to buy into it, because I've had fighters in the past that have just given me so much attitude that it's just made every day a chore with them. They realistically think they know it all. And that has been their undoing. Because why else would you have a coach in your corner other than help him to make you get better? So it's a really good story that you've done the video, put together what you think Josh needs to work on, and it's going to be vital for this fight. But yeah, it's so important, it really is.
Ben, you're pretty savvy at these things, so I know you're not going to be too surprised at the questions that are coming, but I don't want you to give too much away. But what do you think are the keys to victory for Saturday night?
Josh picking his moments, like Gary said. Ramirez has a fantastic engine, high volume. It's up to us to use that against him. He wants to be aggressive, use it against him. He wants to throw a lot of shots, use it against him. Take his strengths and make them a weakness. That's what we need to do. Once we start to do that, Josh can then build on the foundations that he set early on in the fight.
I think the foundations are amazing, simply because, I personally think, although he lost in the manner that he lost to Canelo the other day, Billy Joe is our finest pure boxer that we've had in many a year. Josh Taylor is our best rounded fighter that we've had in many a year. He can do it all. He can box. He can move laterally. He can body punch, which is exceptional. His body punching is exceptional. And he's a dirty little as well when he needs to be,
Spiteful.
And he's spiteful. And he'll need to be. He'll need to be in this fight. This is a fight.
Someone's just slapped that bleep button there, Gary. By the time
Don't worry, mate. You production team, you know what to do.
Our producer's just pulled his hair out there.
But it's a great fight for so many reasons, because there'll be no quarter art still given in this fight. But they both do what they do so well. I think the styles will mesh so well. I really do.
I think that's why so many people are looking forward to it. Not just because of the profile of the fight, not just because of the unbeaten records and all the titles on the line, but actually they're brilliant at what they do. And I just think styles, look, I'm going to eat these words, can't be a bad fight. Ben, just a couple more before we let you go. You can only control the controllables. And like I said, we don't live in an ideal world. How have you counteracted the fact that you've only had that one fight together? And I know that fighters, they want to knock people out, but it wasn't the most ideal preparation, because it was just such a one-sided beating of poor old Konsong, who is probably still winded. Is it been more sparring? Has it been, what else can you do? Sparring is one thing, fighting is another. You've just had that one round blowout.
Time in the gym's more important than time spent in the fight. That's where the learning's done. That's where the relationships gelled, and the relationships made. And that's where the subconscious instincts and decision making's made for what you need to do on a night. That's what drilling is for. That's what training is for. And so we've had plenty of time in the gym. That's the most important thing. So as well as talking about the drilling, vocabulary, what I mean from what I say, he understands. All of these kind of things are in place because the amount of time that we've spent together. So I'm happy with where the relationship's at and the time that we've had, albeit not in a fight, but in the gym.
Yeah, time is key, isn't it, together? That's something that we'll talk about it in part 2, Gary, but Buatsi and Virgil Hunter, they only had 8 weeks, and 8 weeks probably wasn't enough. And, that's something we can touch on again. Ben, if you might just say, look, winning is all that matters, and ultimately that is all that matters. If I was going to push you in a certain direction, if Josh Taylor does what he's done behind closed doors, do you think Josh Taylor wins this fight by stoppage?
I certainly believe that's a possibility for sure, yeah.
Wow.
What a statement that would be. What a statement that would be. Gary, we can talk about we can talk about famous Scotsman and where it ranks, and if Josh Okay, you know, Ken Buchanan's going to have a fair bit to say, and you have to do a lot to beat him. But that's something we can pick up on. What about weight making, Ben? If Josh is successful, and you might just want to flat bat this one back and say, let's talk about that after Saturday, and we're only focused on Saturday. But is there a platform there that you could pack a bit more weight on, and he could go up to welterweight to fight a Crawford or a Spence in another mega fight, or is that a conversation to be had down the line?
Obviously, I can answer a question like that. Obviously, he has the physical attributes to be able to, and the physical stature to be a decent sized welterweight. But he also is extremely comfortable and a magnificent physical specimen for 140.
I can't believe he does 140. And well, the fact that he does it without, we can all play poker, and every boxer always says I've made the weight easy, but certainly from the fights I've done with him, particularly Prograis, where Prograis was really struggling, you know, as I'm standing opposite Josh, he's my height probably, and you just think, how are you doing that weight so easily?
He's always had the best of teams around him. You know, he's had the best of teams around him from Shane to now Ben, but also strength conditioning. He's got the man Dan Lawrence. Dan Lawrence, the man that everybody wants to work with. My fighters work with Dan Lawrence as well. And you know what Dan doesn't know about nutrition and preparation for a fight isn't worth knowing. You know, he's meticulous, and he gets his point across. And you know, the results are there. The results have been there with all the fighters that have worked with him. So. The team and the preparation, I've got no doubt they're more than ready for this. They're more than ready for this.
Can I just say my last interaction with Dan Lawrence was that I'm trying to shift a little bit of weight myself, but I've got 1,000,001 reasons not to do it, but not a single reason to do it. But I really made an effort in these last couple of bubbles. And I was in the gym in a sweatsuit, and I managed to string together. And Tyson Fury, obviously, Ben, you know very well, and the tribulations that he went through. And there was a quote from Tyson back in the day that was like, you know, 30 days and you make it a habit, and I can stick to it. So I was about 3 weeks in, and I was walking back to my room, and I made that quote to Dan Lawrence. He went, yeah, there was a Harvard study actually, and they said it's more like 65. And I nearly died. I was like, you know what, forget it, Dan. Thank you very much. That was the last interaction I had with him. Devin Haney, that was a link up that caught us all a little bit by surprise. You're working with him ahead of May 29th, where he fights Jorge Linares. How did that come about? And is that another relationship that you're enjoying at the moment?
Yeah, I just want to say as well quickly that that's working alongside his father. Yeah, it came about because I was in Las Vegas a couple of years ago. Haney come into the gym. We actually started speaking before, but he started sparring. And to be honest with you, really give it to these two sparring partners. And I'm quite soft-hearted. So I started saying to the sparring partners, look, next time, maybe if you try this, maybe if you try that. And he looked across the gym and said, Coach, can I get some of that work? And he come over and asked, you know, what did you think? What did you see? And I told him what my thoughts were. And he called his dad over. And he was obviously impressed with my input. But I was very impressed with the fact that he was 21 years old at the time, WBC world champion, had about a 10-man team, just smashed the life out of two sparring partners, yet still hungry for more information. That really impressed me. And then there was, you know, we were speaking since then, and he just said to me, would you be willing to do some work with me? And I said that I was coming over to Vegas for Joshua Ramirez, and it worked out that his fight's the week after. And so, yeah, I've been in the gym working with himself and his dad for his Jorge Linares fight.
Yeah, big up. We're a fan of him on the podcast, and he's been very good to us at Sky Sports, and particularly toe to toe. So I wish him all the best.
That's a great trade fight too. That's a great trade fight too. Tells us a lot about him. Tells us a lot. That will tell us a lot about Haney as well, because you know everybody underestimates.
I'm worried, yeah, Gary. I am a little bit worried. I have to say, you won't like hearing that, Ben. But Linares, if he's got anything left,
he can more than fight Linares. He's one of my favorite fighters to have watched over the last decade or so. He can more than fight. He knows. He knows. There's nothing about boxing that he doesn't know. Will his punch resistance be able to take what Haney's got? Can he make Haney miss enough? I mean, this is what happens at top level, I find. Can these guys make each other miss enough and counter? Can they do that? Because anyone can punch. Can somebody set traps for you? And as we saw when Linares knocked down Lomachenko, he more than set that trap, didn't he? You know, so it's a really interesting fight.
Yeah, it's either perfect matchmaking or disastrous matchmaking. Probably perfect, because I think Devin Haney is here to stay, and I think, he's in that Four Kings group.
It's one of them. Like, Devin's an extremely talented lad. He's young. If he goes about the fight the right way, he wins the fight. If he goes about the fight the wrong way, it's a potential slip up. Of course it is, because Jorge Linares is a top quality fighter. But I believe that Devin will go about the fight the right way, and it will show where Devin's at such a young age against a top quality operator.
Yeah, you're right. I think we all agree on that. It's just, with these, when veterans, we can call him a veteran now. When you start to think, oh, well, maybe they're done, they always come back. There's always one big shock in there. So, Ben, for your sake and Devin's sake, hope this isn't it. But I like both guys, so may the best man win. Ben, just briefly, Team Saunders, you obviously went out there to Dallas and helped out. He's been coming out in dribs and drabs regarding Billy Joe. Want to send our best wishes to him. I think he's home now, back in the UK. Obviously, a shocking, terrible injury, and we wish him all the best with his recovery. There's been so much about what happened in the corner, what was said. What do you have to say on that? There was a little bit of confusion at the time, as is always the case in a situation like that, when there's a lot of voices, and it wasn't quite clear if, obviously sitting thousands of miles away, sitting at home, it wasn't quite clear what happened at the time.
Yeah, Billy Joe's made a statement. Okay, that's obviously come from Billy Joe, where in his statement he's put, Ben got the corner to pull it. What he meant by that was, and I'm sure he's going to clear this up and clarify that, is he felt there was hesitation in the corner, whereas I'd said to Billy Joe, which was me whispering in his ear, in a situation like that, in my opinion, you don't leave it down to the fighter. Someone has to take the ball by the horns. And I've told Billy Joe, whispering in his ear, the fight's going to get pulled. That's why he shook his head, saying, no, don't pull me, as any fighter's going to say. And then obviously through a discussion through the corner, Mark then waved the fight off. It's unprofessional the way that all of this has gone about, but I'm sure that everything will be clarified, within that corner. I just want to clear up as well that I was asked and approached, and Billy Joe, when the fight first come about, Billy Joe come to my gym asking me about the fight, what my thoughts were, etc. I was then asked and approached to do some sessions with him when I landed in Vegas, which I obliged. I was then asked and approached to assist in the corner on the night, which I obliged. Through the corner, Mark would often ask me, Ben, what do you think? In the moments in the corner, that's why I was seen to be vocal at times. I just think that posts over social media and that, it's not the way things are supposed to be done and should be done. But what's happened is happened, and I need to be professional. I've got Josh Taylor's undisputed fight coming up this weekend, so I'm not going to keep talking about it. I've done an interview based on it. That's the last I'm going to say on it. I've basically told you what I said in the interview. And that's the last I'm going to say on it, because, like I say, I need to be professional, and I'm sure the cut man, the fourth assistant in the corner, and Billy Joe himself will clarify anything that I've said. And that's it. That's all I can say on it.
Yeah, we absolutely respect that. I won't push you any more on that. Last one, though, finish on the big one. AJ Fury. Finally, Tyson Fury has said that he thinks it's on August 14th, Saudi Arabia. My bags are half packed. We are still waiting official confirmation. But can you, Ben, put us at ease now? Can we start to get excited? This looks like it's green light, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks that way for Tyson to make that commitment, and to say that. But it's never done till it's done, unfortunately.
No, we'll be editing that bit out. No. By the time this goes out, we'll just leave the bit in where you say it's done. But what do you expect to see from Tyson in the build-up in this one?
I don't really know in terms of the build-up. Obviously we've seen him in the Versace dressing gowns and strutting about and doing his thing. But I imagine as the fight gets closer, he'll get a little bit more focused and nailed on to the job at hand. In terms of in the ring, it's an extremely interesting one, because 2 years ago we would have said, oh, Tyson will be the one on the back foot, Joshua will be the aggressor. I think the way that he dealt with Deontay Wilder, he fell in love with the fact that he was able to do that with someone. And I feel like he may approach this fight in the same manner. I think that there'll also be an egotistical point of view where both men won't want to be physically dominated by the other. And I think it makes for an extremely interesting opening couple of rounds, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Come on, Gary. This guy. Right, I'm gonna go and pack the rest of my bag now. That's all I needed to. Ben, before we let you go, last one. Just it's very much all about the fighters, but this will be a pretty big thing for you this weekend as well. If you can stand there at the end of Saturday night, it'd be the early hours of Sunday morning for us with that picture with all the belts, all the marbles. It'd be a pretty big thing for you as well. I mean, we've all got our fingers crossed over here for Josh Taylor, but you'll have some personal satisfaction as well to train an undisputed champion.
Yeah, but often my my whole passion is to help people achieve their dreams. So, you know, I'm just the personal satisfaction will come from helping Josh achieve his dream, which many people have played a role in for him to get to where he's got to. And just excited to see him do it now.
Best of luck. We're all behind you. Wish Josh and yourself all the best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us, and war Josh Taylor.
Thanks, guys.
Best of luck. Speak to you soon. Wish him all the best.
Now he's off the call, Gary. What do you think? 'Cause I didn't want to ask you in case you thought Ramirez, because it's a bit muggy for me to say that in front of Ben. But do you think Taylor?
I've got to give the edge to Taylor. I just think he's better all round. I think he's definitely the better boxer. Ari, his use of the jab, I think, will be better than Ramirez's use of the jab. I really do believe that. And Josh does so many other things well that Ramirez does well. I think Josh is equally the body puncher that Ramirez is. He's equally the inside fighter that somebody coming from a Latin descent area, Mexican background, you'd think, right, that is it. That is going to be Ramirez's stamping ground. But I think I've seen Josh up close. He sparred with Sam McNess up close countless times. I've seen how really good he is at working the body and getting out and working angles. And I just see that Josh just slightly does everything better than Ramirez early and may well stop him late.
Okay, I think you might be right. You might be right. Let's have a look at some of the other news. The only place to start is in Manchester last weekend, and that spectacular, brutal, cold knockout win for Joshua Buatsi. Your thoughts on Buatsi?
I've known Josh for a long, long time. I watched him in the I think it may have well been the 2014 ABAs. I walked in, I just got into the Croydon Fairfield Old just in time. So this really violent guy swinging for this other opponent, but in a calculated way. But the number one thing that came out of it is that his punches, they weren't just point scoring punches. They were designed to do damage. And it was, lo and behold, it was a young man called Josh Buatsi who then got into Team GB on the back of that, and the rest is history. I've always liked Josh a lot. I think he's an amazing man as well as a fighter, trying to be the best that he can be. But we're getting to that stage of his career where now we're going to ask ourselves, what is the next level? I mean, I thought him hooking up with Virgil Hunter, great idea, because I just think that Josh now needed to learn the nuances of elite light heavyweight boxing, which is what he needs to learn. He needs to learn how to utilize a jab at its correct moment in time against quality opponents. He needs to learn how to utilize feints. And he certainly, judging by the fight prior to this one, where he had the eye damage, he certainly, we may well put that down to ring rust, but he was getting caught alarmingly a lot. And I think that's the reason why he thought he should address it and hook up with a great guy like Virgil Hunter, who knows, who's, as we've seen, done numerous times now. He's worked with great fighters and made them better. So, yeah, it's a great idea. And but having said that, actually getting back to the Dos Santos fight, it really proved nothing other than a great clinical Wilfred Benitez style, Maurice Hope style ending, one punch ending where he's dipped his head to the right, made him look. He's looked momentarily at Dos Santos' chest whilst bringing the right hand over, which is a great thing to do when you've got an opponent that stands at one height all the time, which Dos Santos does. He did what he had to do, but now we move on. And, you know, as I tweeted the other night, it's now time to start seeing what he can do in the upper echelons of this talent-laden division. And what better than to find out at home than with the likes of a Callum Johnson, Lyndon Arthur, and obviously Mr. Anthony Yard. So those are great fights that I think could be made. If there's a world title going for them, which I think everybody's going to say, well, I don't really want to fight you now unless there is a world title on the line. But it'd be great to see one of those fights prior to fight for a world title. But in the era that we live in, I can't realistically see it happening.
Slightly controversial question. Was that dangerous matchmaking on Saturday? And I can see both sides of the argument to this, but as a former pro, I just wondered what you thought. You know, who can blame Eddie Hearn and Matchroom that Daniel Dos Santos, we don't know who else was available, we don't know who turned it down, and Dos Santos came over unbeaten 15-0. No issues with that at all. But you look deeper into the record, he had fought nobody, and he was obviously out of his depth. And some people were unhappy just scrolling through social media on after the fight and on Sunday morning, people questioning whether that was dangerous matchmaking. The counter to that is that not the game? That it's about pushing your guy forward for minimal risk in fights that are going to push him forward, not maybe skill level, but it's another win on the record. I just wonder where you sat with that. Did you have any feelings like that afterwards? It was obvious. There's no denying. I mean, everything that I've said there is up for debate, and we don't know the answers to a lot of those questions. But it was obvious after the event that Buatsi was not just one level, but he was 2, 3, 4, 5 levels above Dos Santos.
I'm going to go with the guys that I've been around who have achieved success with their fighters. And notably, my closest, probably two of my closest friends in boxing is Adam Booth. And as we've seen with Adam Booth, he has made it his business to make sure every one of his fighters is matched up. They very rarely take a step backward in the quality of their opponent. Yeah, they keep getting matched up for opponents with different attributes, difficulties, whether they're good body punchers, whether they're good inside punchers, where they're fighters that can keep his fighter at range, and so his fighter has to work at getting closer to these fighters. These are all what you call good learning fights against guys with more than decent ability. Where Josh has been, he's been on the Olympic cycle. Yeah, he's been on the Olympic cycle. He's sparred with better fighters than what he fought the other night. There's no doubt about it. He spars and has sparred with better fighters than he has fought the other night. And for me personally, Josh, I mean, I can understand Virgil probably saying, right, let's take this fight because we've been working on stuff. But then you got to be careful because it's going to be headlined. We're in an era now where the old days of a Roberto Duran fighting down a card in an 8 or 10 rounder, those days are over. A Josh Buatsi fighting on the card is going to be a semi-main event or a main event. And so people are saying, we want a main event type opponent.
Yeah, should just say it was difficult because Choi and Terry Harper should have been the main event. So had Terry Harper not broken her hand, this would have been chief support. And I know what you're saying there. Josh Kelly took a fight that afterwards, now everyone's saying, oh, he should have had X, Y, and Z more fights before he got in there with Avanesian. Actually, the sort of, probably a couple more Dos Santos type fights. So I'm not sitting here, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying it was a good match or a bad match. And actually at the time, if he had come over and beat Joshua Buatsi, and we wouldn't have been having this conversation, would we? The fact that he was 15-0 danger man, no one would have known.
Let's keep it real. That was never going to happen. From the minute that guy stood up, and you know what, Dos Santos, he's accrued a 15-0 record, and his matchmakers have done a wonderful job getting him to that stage. But at what cost? Because he fights in a style that is meat and potatoes for people that are grade. Yeah, he stands tall. As you saw with the fight, you saw with the shot that finished him. Josh didn't even have to look at him. He set him up by looking at his chest and rolling the right hand over the top. Yeah, and that's because he knew where the kid's head would be. This is not Josh Buatsi's fault. This is just the way the game is. There are going to be matches made like this from time to time. And it has been made and it has happened. And he's learned nothing from it. But he's done a few things in there that I'm pretty much sure that him and Virgil Hunter will be happy that he's worked on. But as we've said now, the waiting is over. The Yards have been fighting at world-class level. The Arthurs want to fight at world-class level. Callum Johnson has fought at world-class level. Now we need to see what Josh Buatsi has at that level. And he's beaten a couple of ranked opponents in the past for his WBA and international titles and continental titles and whatnot. But like now, he's 28. It's now time to move forward. If you're there's a Bivol fight that's so interesting that can be made.
Yeah, they were cold on that though, weren't they? I sensed, Buatsi and Virgil, I sensed were on a slightly different notebook to Eddie Hearn. I think Eddie Hearn perhaps wants tougher tests now. And I think Buatsi and Virgil would perhaps like a couple more to see where they're at. That's just a hunch. That's not me knowing anything or saying anything. It was just in that post-fight interview, you put the name Bivol to Eddie Hearn. He was very keen. But Virgil Hunter in the week had said 18 months minimum before we want to go to that level. So there's a little bit of a clash there. But this is good. This is good though, isn't it? You know,
So you know what? I'll let you into a little secret. What my thoughts of Josh Buatsi are: wonderfully violent, more than decent boxing ability. But the one thing that I think Josh has lacked, and I've said this to Josh in the past, is that his defense is primarily his offense. Yeah, his defense is not slipping a shot and countering. Yeah, his defense is not setting traps. Up until the other night, he set that trap for this guy. So this is the first time I've seen him progress to setting traps for a finishing shot. But he just needs to learn the cutes a bit more and how to navigate fights, because normally how Josh gets his way out of trouble is to, with an educated eye and an educated hand, blast his way through his opponents. He's a violent finisher. He's arguably the best of the three. You know, he's arguing. I mean, gosh, him, Johnson, and Yard, if you put all their highlight reels together, that's some really good KOs there. But I think Josh is probably just about the most violent one out of the three. But like, he now needs to put this all together. And if you're gonna be at the elite level, then you've got to have elite level cutes. And so I can understand why they want to just take a dress back. The only thing is that if you're going to take a step back and not fight prime opponents, then you can't ask for prime exposure. You can't have it both. Do you know what I'm saying? Go down the card. And so we come back to a highlight reel and say, earlier on the card, Josh Buatsi boxed, and if he wins in a certain way, then we can say, oh, well, that's a learning fight. He's down the card. But if you're a chief supporter or even a main event, then people are the man in the street and the man and woman in the street that's reading up on social media. They want to see a level of opponent. They want to see a higher level of opponent, you know? And, you know, I want to see it because I've seen this kid from a young age and I've seen him come through, and now it's time to start stepping up. The knock on Josh Buatsi now is that he hasn't been where Anthony Yard has been, yet he has more grade than Anthony Yard. And that's not to be derogatory to Anthony Yard, but Anthony Yard's been to the mountaintop. He may have been knocked down once, but he's tried to get there, but he's learned from that. And I can't wait to see how Yard goes about his business in future. And obviously I can't wait to see how Arthur goes about, who beat him with one hand, who beat Yard with one hand, a fighter of Yard's ability with one hand. So there's lots of questions to be answered. I mean, but these light heavyweights, they got to get it done.
Yes, come on, get it done. Come on, guys. We all want to see it. Let's run through the rest of the card. Probably have to push you for shorter answers on all of these. The Iceman, Jason Cunningham, the underdog who never lost hope. Arguably performance of the night.
Yeah.
The fight of the night, without a doubt. And it takes two to tango. Gamal Yafai will feel that he didn't box well, but he stayed true to the task and pushed Jason Cunningham to hell and back. Jason Cunningham, though, wow, what an upset. What a great upset. Bookie, Basher, Steffi Ball and Ray Doyle take a bow. Jason Cunningham, get in there. What a win.
Yeah, and this is what boxing is about. I mean, you get your rudimentary results where results are expected. You might think of Jason Cunningham gonna come in, give Yafai the best he can give him, and still lose, you know. But it was a great fight. It was a compelling fight with the knockdowns, with his fortitude, his determination, and his boxing ability. And the fortitude was really good because he got hurt up the body a couple of times by Yafai, especially late on.
Oh, that last 9, 10, 11. But I do love that. I do love that in a fight, Gary, though, where someone's come off the floor and they're rolling the dice, and boxing's gone out the window, and it's just he Gamal Yafai, and he won't like me saying, but he was like, right, kitchen sink, what else? And I do love that because it makes such a good spectacle.
For us, it was perfect. He probably went off game plan, but he just probably thought, you know what, I'm not having any success when I try to box this guy. I've just got to you know, as we say on the street, you just got arms out him and just rough him up. You just got to rough him up.
Just rock him up in there.
Yeah, rough him up. And it nearly worked. It looked at a certain point that Cunningham was going to fold. Steffi gave him a good, solid talking to, and then he was back. You know, yes, it was a great fight.
It was brilliant.
Fight. Really good for boxing.
Boxing's one of those that, you know, it has its critics, and you always come out with less than what you put in. And he's been a pro 10 years, but that's just the fights. You think of all the sparring, all the rounds he's done. If he hadn't have won that title fight at the weekend, he was going to retire. And you just think he probably would have walked away not having achieved what he wanted to achieve in the sport. So for him to win the European title, absolutely brilliant. And Gamal Yafai can come again. He's had his ups and downs, and this will feel like a terrible down, but you know, there had to be a winner, and it was Jason Cunningham. So fair play to that whole gym. And Doncaster now, as Steffi Ball said afterwards, Maxie Hughes, Jason Cunningham, and Terry Harper from a little town. Good on them. Big win for Tommy McCarthy again. But I think we're all talking about hot cross buns, aren't we, Lerone Richards?
You know, Lerone is an exceptional boxer. There's no doubt about it. He's a wonderful boxer. For me personally, he was so dominant. I would have liked to have seen him try and put it on the kid and try and get a stoppage. But I think realistically, I don't think that's Lerone's game. He's good. His job is outboxing people wonderfully, and that's what he does. He's very effective at it. He's very good at it. There's probably not a shot in his arsenal. There's not a shot in boxing that Lerone Richards hasn't got. He just hasn't got the spite that will separate him from the guys that go to the next level, the guys that you say, I will pay my money because I know I'm going to get a super exciting fight. I think Lerone will need.
Will it hold him back then?
You
know, there are plenty of boxers who have succeeded without being monster punchers.
Yeah, sometimes they get, shall we say, circumnavigated. One Errol Graham got circumnavigated by a man that I love him so much, Nigel Benn. He got circumnavigated by another guy that I love so much, Michael Watson. He got circumnavigated by another guy that I admire greatly, shall we say at best, Chris Eubank. Yeah? There is your answer. Cute looking southpaw.
I love the fact that you stayed true to a very difficult word in circumnavigated 3 times.
He is fast becoming the chairman of Who Needs Him Club, Lerone. But he's got the titles that now he's got something that other people need. So he's always going to be in these fights now, because to go anywhere, how are you going to get round or circumnavigate the European super middleweight champion? This kid has done it all with wonderful boxing ability. Is it overly entertaining? I would say to the man in the street or the man and a woman in the street, no. But to people in the trade, it's wonderful boxing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was thoroughly entertaining. What did you make of Sol Dakers? Very rarely do we get heavyweight with such impressive punch output, was my takeaway.
Throws a lot of punches. I'm not sure he has the power yet. Hopefully he'll grow into that. But the intent is what I like. He intends to throw a lot of shots, and he likes hitting people. It's not like sometimes you get these heavyweights and if they weren't a heavyweight, you'd think, well, would they actually be any good? With him, I think there's a lot of things that he was doing in the fight, Ari, with his head movement, blocking up shots and trying to fire off shots that a smaller man does. So it looked quite entertaining to me. And the intent with him is to land shots and be quite violent. He was going for the stoppage. It's just that he may have tried a little bit too hard. But, you know, for a debut, I thought he was really good. I thought, you know, he's the book is out on whether he's going places, but I like the intent.
Yeah, and we should just say Mladen Manev earned his paycheck, didn't he? Because I think there would have been times, you know, he could have sat down in the corner and say, my hand's gone or my elbows hurt. And, you know, he took his lumps and bumps, so fair play to him. Can I just say...
And it's wonderful. The wonderful thing, I think with people like Dakers as well, is that you can clearly see they've been around the Anthony Joshua's training camps or whatever, and it's clearly rubbed off on them. They know what the public want to see. And this is why I think he was overly aggressive.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I think he probably wasn't sitting down much on his shots. He wanted a stoppage because he knows that's what people pay to see. You know, he'll have a couple of fights now where he'll settle down now. I'd like to see him settle down and establish a jab and then all the other shots will come off it a bit more. You know, break a man down with a jab, especially at heavyweight. If you can break a man down with a jab at heavyweight, especially, it's gold. So, yeah.
Can I just say this now? At 7-0, I'm already happy to put my house on it. Dalton Smith is going places. He is going places. I'm going to put to you now, can you think of anybody, and I know there are a few, but at his level that's making such, I don't know, impressive strides, English champion now, he looks so well-rounded. I know we were talking about Buatsi being, you know, well-rounded, but Dalton Smith, it's very difficult to say he doesn't do this well or he doesn't do that well. He just seems to have it all. And I'm putting it out there now. If he doesn't go to the very top, then something's gone wrong.
Well, gosh, you know what? Alan Smith, great coach. Alan's coached about 5 or 6 British champions now, Alan Smith has. And he said, Gal, what you need in boxing, it's not who you fight, it's who you don't fight. And you also need a lot of luck, you know? The ability side of it, I will not question at the moment. There's absolutely nothing out of question. You know, just the way he sets about his work, you can see he watches a lot of Canelo. And you can see, I'll bet he watches a lot of Duran because he doesn't put everything into a jab. He baits you. He's what, for me, the epitome of, you look at most of modern great fighters, you look at most of history's greatest fighters, Julio Cesar Chavez, obviously Mayweather is a slightly exception. Salvador Sanchez, oh my God, Manny Pacquiao, they're all Canelo. They're all aggressive counter punchers. They actually draw your punches onto him and then pummel you. They pummel you with counters to the point where Roy Jones Jr. is perfect example, where they make you so reluctant to lead that before you know it, you're getting holes punched in you because you're caught in the middle of the road. You don't know whether to punch and get countered or just stick and try and make them miss, which most people can't do that. Not everybody's imbued with.
What a horrible situation that must be to be in.
It's awful. And you could clearly see that in Appleyard the other night. You could clearly see it. He did not know whether to stick or twist. When he stuck and didn't punch, he got pummeled. And when he punched, he got countered brutally, you know? He got led into shots. As I said, Dalton was baiting him with the jab and then turning that jab into a vicious left hook off of the jab, you know, sort of Canelo style, sort of left hook. You know, he's got every shot in the book. We've got to see what happens when he fights someone that's more assertive and truly believes they can land their shots. That's when we're going to find out. But as far as talent is, as far as punch and output, as far as maturity, I mean, the way he looked at the corner as if to say, mate, I'm pummeling your boy. Ain't you going to pull him out? You know, the way,
yeah.
You know, he's got so many attributes, but I really liked his composure under fire, which by making Appleyard miss quite easily and encountering him quite easily, it took all the fight out of him quite early, and that is why we had a mid-round stoppage. But yeah, if I'm looking at the 140 division, apart from the elite, like your Josh Taylors and Ahara Davis, I mean, him against Ahara Davis in, say, I'd say 5-6 fights. That's a great fight, isn't it? That's a great fight.
Yeah, I make you right. Wow. That would be a great fight. That would tell us where he's at, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. You might have heard stuff on the grapevine. Daniel Dubois has reportedly moved on from Mark Tibbs to Shane McGuigan. That's before his fight with Bogdan Dinu. Did you know about that? Will that be a good fit for him? I don't know what's happened there, so I'm not going to speculate between Daniel and Mark. I don't know if it was amicable or not. So moving forward with Shane, is that a good fit?
You know, he's gone to a camp that's produced champions. You know, Shane has produced champions. You can't mess with that. You can't mess with that. But Shane has got the experience. He's got the experience of working at world level. No matter what the weight, that matters. And you know, the great thing with coaches, and hopefully it will benefit Daniel, is the fact that every coach thinks he can put his little sprinkle on what you maybe did do well in that fight that you lost the fight, or what you can do better. You know, as we spoke with Ben Davison earlier, no matter how well your fight is done, you want to evolve him. You know, you want to get him better. You want him to improve, you know, not just for you, but you want him to improve for himself, you know, to have the confidence in what you're trying to teach him. I I mean, that's in less than a year. That's it's his third coach. So let's hope that it does work, you know. But I think if anyone's going to make it work, Shane's got as good a chance as any.
Yeah, and you only get one career, and if it's not working for you, regardless, you got to, and it won't look like a popular decision from the outside. You know, young fighters chop and change trainers, but you got to do what you got to do. So
You got to do for you. You got to do for you.
Yeah, hopefully that all works out for Team Dubois.
And I'm not saying that he's being disloyal, but Mickey Duff always said to me, Gary, if you want loyalty in boxing, go and buy a dog.
Mike Goodall was in the bubble last week, and he was swearing and shouting like he normally does. Mike Goodall builds all the rings, ring craft, if you don't know him. I said to him, what's the quickest you've ever put a ring together? And he said, Mickey Duff rang me when he had a dinner show, and they were on their second course, and the ring hadn't arrived, and for some reason it hadn't been booked. And he threw it in the transit van, and he managed to get it up in about 27 minutes, he said. But from main course through to dessert, he said he was 3 of them putting a ring up. But it was a Mickey Duff show, so that took my mind there. One more down memory lane before we go. Can't leave without wishing Jamie McDonnell all the very best in retirement. So many great memories with Jamie over the years. On a personal level, I worked with him when I worked at Maloney Promotions and had such a good ride. 2-time world champion, British Commonwealth, European champion, a handful for anyone, a good road warrior, traveller, and I just wish him all the very best. And I don't think it's an unfair criticism, but made the very best of his attributes and ability, a massive bantamweight, and good luck to him.
Yeah, one of the game's really true overachievers. Wasn't exceptional in the amateurs, but just full of northern grit. I remember when he out-hustled Ian Napper, the highly skilled Ian Napper, for the British title. I think I might have emceed that night on Sky Sports back in the day.
Yeah, you did. And I tell you why, because I think I might have given you your money in an envelope at the end of the night.
Don't tell him. Don't tell him you paid me cash.
If it was short, and if it was short, I didn't count it. It was nothing to do with me. But do you know what's funny, Gary? That night, he was announced to fight Napper, and we had the posters printed for him to fight someone else. Jamie came in as a late replacement. We asked Dennis Hobson if he had a photo of Jamie McDonnell. They didn't even have a photo of him for the poster. And he came and ripped up the form book to win. And I don't know if you all thank me for saying it, but Jamie, his girlfriend at the time, I went in the dressing room to congratulate them, and there was a coach of fans ready to leave outside. He said, everyone's waiting on the bus. He's like, yeah, I was just checking my bet that came in though. And she went, what do you mean? And he had put like 10 grand on himself to win. And rather than be elated with the fact that he had done that, she went, you bet without telling me. And she didn't slap him, but she sort of went, oh, I've had enough. And she stormed out. So there was Jamie with the Lonsdale belt, and she was absolutely rubbishing him, saying that he shouldn't have put a bet on himself without telling him.
What a story. What a story.
Yeah. I got loads. I turned up once, and I shouldn't be telling these. In fact, I'm not going to. But they used to feed him in the gym when he was with Dave Holly and Steffi Ball. If he did his workout and he's running, he got a fruit pastel or a wine gum.
Wow.
It was like a racehorse. They just gave him one wine gum just to keep him up, because he loved his cheat meals. So they gave him a sweet. But yeah, brilliant memories. He went to France with.
Can you only imagine though, with his frame, just how disciplined he was during his career to continually make bank?
Unbelievable. And actually, the Inoue win, flat as Inoue, because Jamie McDonnell was tough, but he was I shouldn't say it again, but he was a corpse at that weight and terrible. And he was never, they took that fight for the reasons they know, but I think everybody knew that the fight was lost on the scales. But he did absolutely everything asked of him. And just one more final thought. I did a fight with him against an Italian hairdresser, Bracco, and they were suspicious around the hotel. And Gavin McDonnell, who wasn't boxing at the time, was a plasterer and had plastered all morning, came in with plaster of Paris all over him, wearing a vest. And he had a pint of beer and a Jaeger bomb at the bar. And the Italians didn't know that he was a twin. Came in, thought it was Jamie McDonnell necking pints before the weigh-in, looking about 12 stone, absolutely heads gone, and they were petrified from that moment onwards. So they played that twin card brilliantly. But yeah, enjoy retirement, Jamie, because you've earned it. What a success story. One more, because I tipped it at the start of the show. If Josh Taylor, good luck, Josh, if he becomes undisputed, does he become Scotland's best ever?
Gosh.
What a way to finish.
what Ken Buchanan achieved in the 60s, continually going over to the United States and winning in places from California up to New York, will take some beating. We'll take some beating. I'm going to have to come back to you on that. I might have to tweet it. I'm going to have to come back to you because I just don't want to get carried away. What we tend to do in this modern era, we tend to devalue what was achieved in the past. And, Ken was so good that Roberto Duran's people didn't give him a return. I don't believe it was Roberto Duran. Ken Buchanan was so good that in a life and death struggle with Duran, which he took his lumps, they still didn't give him a return.
And maybe the modern world, maybe we don't need to do that comparison. Scotland's allowed to have two superstars and legends of the game. If Josh wins, we don't need to say who was better.
Yeah, so if Josh pulls this off, he will have beaten the leading super lightweight of his era. He will have established superiority over the only other guy that's undefeated going into an undisputed fight. And that's just what an achievement. And why can't we just have statues beside one another? Ken Buchanan and Josh, and a little one of Benny Lynch in the middle, a little great flyweight champion, Benny Lynch in the middle. How great would that be, eh?
Yeah, it'd be brilliant. It would be brilliant. That is everything. Remember to rate us on iTunes. My thanks to Ben from Vegas. Gary, to you from home. Enjoy the golf. Hopefully the weather doesn't dismiss you all week. But thank you to everyone for listening at home, and we will catch you again next week.